Hi, I'm Tom Elliott with Deepwardly Spiritual Direction Services. Today I want to talk to you about a practice, a spiritual practice called the Examen, or sometimes referred to as consciousness examen. It was a tool used by St. Ignatius of Loyola more than 500 years ago, and yet it is still very applicable and usable and practical for you and I today. The examen has 5 particular parts or steps to it, and when we're first learning the examen, it's usually important for us to follow those steps pretty closely. But as the examen becomes more and more integrated into our life, we might find that we simplify or slightly modify that prayer process. Now, this particular prayer tool is a pretty simple one and shouldn't take a long time. Ignatius used to practice it multiple times throughout the day for just 5 or 10 minutes. And at the end of his life, the people closest to him said that he was practicing the examen almost non-stop. It had become that ingrained into his life. Hopefully it'll be the same way for you and I, because the examen helps you and I to better know how God has been at work in our lives and how we're responding. In other words, we get to know God better and we get to know ourselves better. So let's look at the 5 steps of the examen. The first step is to simply pray for God's light, the light of the Holy Spirit. This should just take a few seconds, but it reverences the fact that we want the light of God to shine in our hearts, that we can see more clearly, discern more effectively how God's been present and how we've been invited to respond to His grace. Then next, we actually spend a few moments offering gratitude, thanksgiving to God for particular gifts, and really focusing on the gifts that are rooted in poverty. What I mean by that is, you and I tend to be the most thankful for the gifts that were born out of poverty. Let me give a brief example. If I've just finished drinking an entire gallon of water, and you give me a glass of water, I'm going to be a little bit thankful. That's different than if I've just finished mowing the lawn, I haven't had anything to drink, it's hot out and humid out, and I really am thirsty. There's a poverty of water going on within me. When you give me that glass of water, I'm going to be filled with tremendous gratitude. So during this step of the examen, we're particularly conscious of how much we need from God, of how deeply we thirst for Him, and we're grateful for the ways in which He spiritually, sometimes mentally, emotionally, and materially, quenches that thirst. Then the third step is at the heart of the examen. It's where you and I simply review our day, much like we would kind of fast forward through a TV program that we DVR'd, just kind of getting a quick look at what has happened since our last prayer, since our last examen. And we pay attention to, where was God present? Where did we experience His grace? Where did we feel like God was inviting us to something deeper? And we either wholeheartedly responded or maybe we pulled back. And we take time to simply savor what was going on there. Why did we respond to His grace, or why did we not respond to His grace? What was He trying to teach us through the experience? How were we being invited to be a unique, particular image of Christ for the world today? Then the fourth step is to ask for forgiveness, to enter into contrition for any moment that we recognized where we didn't respond to God's grace. This isn't a beating ourselves up, but simply reverencing the beautiful relationship that we have with God, that we want to be in a right relationship, a healthy relationship. And those always entail mercy and asking for forgiveness. Then the fifth step is to respond, to make some sort of resolution for the rest of our day based on what God just showed us. So in other words, if as we did step 3, we realized that God's been inviting us into greater humility, but we really missed the boat. And so in step 4, we asked Jesus for forgiveness. Then in step 5, we might look at a concrete way that we can enter more deeply into humility sometime through the rest of that day. Maybe that's making a resolution to help a coworker that we've not always gotten along with, but really humbling ourselves to serve him or her. So that step 5 is a concrete resolution to apply what we've learned from the Examen. Now that might sound like a lot, but as we practice it and get familiar with it, we can literally do it in a matter of minutes, multiple times a day, and it begins to bear tremendous spiritual fruit. It can actually provide material for our personal prayer time each day, and our personal prayer time can help us better understand the practice of the Examen through the rest of the day. I hope that helps, and have a wonderful day. May God bless you.